Hey, welcome to the NextDrop Question. I'm Mohamed Ateia. This is a short conversation series where I ask one focused question to experts working at the front lines of water, contaminants, environment, and practical solutions. Hello from Houston. I'm at Rice University today, attending the International Water Association Leading Edge Conference on water and wastewater technologies. I am very fortunate today to speak with Paul Westerhoff. Paul has shaped how many of us think about water quality, treatment, emerging contaminants, and the connections between research and real infrastructure decisions. In this conversation, we will talk about how water challenges are changing, how scientists and engineers can ask better questions before jumping to solutions. So let's get to it.
Okay, Paul, very nice meeting you. Can you tell us a little bit who are you and affiliation and the work that you're doing?
Of course. So thanks. I'm Paul Westerhoff, an environmental engineer at Arizona State University.
Okay, so whenever I think about someone who made a huge impact on our field, you pop up in my head. Your work over the past, now I don't know, close to 3 decades in the industry
Thanks.
has been really, really impactful. Really cool projects, always touching something that people are, that's the theme, at least my assessment, something that people are curious about, would like to know about, and then Paul is doing it, which is great. So again, really thank you for putting
my philosophy in terms of research has always been, kind of question authority and don't do what everybody else is doing. And so, kind of sometimes I feel like, I'm not even in the same box as other people, but that to me is fine. I really don't care, about what other people think of me. And that's why, I like academics. So after I got a master's, I worked in consulting a little bit, and it was like how to fix something. And I was always curious, like, why it didn't work.
Yeah.
And, so I got a PhD, and, academics has allowed me to really ask questions. And, as long as I can convince somebody to give me money for it, I can. One of the most fun ones, I wrote a proposal, and the first page of the proposal once was a dialogue between a Canadian Mountie and a water buffalo. And in Arizona, water buffaloes are politicians who care about water. And so it was like, I was like, I don't care if I get this. I'm just going to write this proposal my way. And it was a dialogue, between them. In the end, it was about the Monty telling the water buffalo, you're telling me to send you hydrogen that I electrolyze from the dams in Canada, but you're just trying to steal my water, right? And then it was about, how we can use fuel cells to create water.
Which is amazing. And communicating the science in the simplest way, in the most effective way, I guess it's a very essential tool that we need to pair with the cool science and the questions that we are trying to answer.
And I never let an opportunity pass. So you were asking, how did we lead to do this stuff in space? And so,
I mean, that's what I was going to come. I'm like, I was mentioning earlier all the work that you have been doing on Earth. And I think today we'll be talking about what you're doing on space.
Yeah, it's kind of out of the box.
Exactly.
Really out of the box.
So what's happening there?
I saw this solicitation from the National Science Foundation to do experiments on the International Space Station. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. And, I worked harder on that proposal than I've worked on any other proposal.
Wow.
I spent over 100 hours. I built the rock star team. It wasn't a lot of money, but I found a person at my university, Cheryl Nickerson, who had done stuff on the space station. She's a biologist, and her friend, Robert McNeil from Texas Tech, never knew him, but he's a biologist. They had done this stuff on space of looking at, how bacteria kind of respond to nano silver. Now, I was into nanomaterials, but they were studying bacteria in water.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I want to do something. So we had been doing this work with UV light, germicidal light, and I knew NASA was interested in germicidal light. And actually, they funded our startup company on this. But I was really interested in the science. Like, would this really work in space? And so we wrote a proposal on how to answer two key questions between Earth gravity and microgravity. How do biofilms form? What does their structure look like? And then if you stress them with UVC light as a way to control biofilms, do they respond differently in microgravity? So there's one concept that in microgravity, biofilms grow real spongy compared to like really flat and smooth in Earth gravity. So that was like the key science thing. And biofilms are a huge problem on the space station. They clog things, like astronauts almost die because of biofilms.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a huge issue. And they don't want to bring chemicals. So they've been using chromate for decades. It works. It kills biofilms. But, in the end, you can't bring it to the moon. You can't bring chromate to Mars. And the other chemical alternatives end up in the astronaut's blood. So, the key really was, to find something that resonated with NASA. And so we looked at how we have these optical fibers that serve like glow sticks to control biofilms in space. And NASA has been funding our company. But I wanted to take the science perspective. And so it was a lot of work. We found a deployment partner, BioServe, that actually like makes equipment to go to the space station, has to pass all these interesting safety tests.
Yeah.
So I learned all about like the space ecosystem. So for 4 years, 3 of the years was like, building this stuff, testing it. And then we got to work with astronauts. My students had Zoom meetings with astronauts on the space station while they were running our experiments over the course of a month. And then a few months ago, we got the samples back, splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. We picked them up, and now we're analyzing these biofilms. And as we expected, we see differences in biofilm morphology between Earth and microgravity. So as humanity goes to the stars, our fibers are going to follow them.
Wow. Yeah. Again, it's really cool. Like the thing that we see in movie, like people are talking to the astronauts. You actually did that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you wanted to get up at 2 a.m. and see with Zoom for 8 hours how the astronauts were doing your experiments. The astronauts are like, they do these science experiments huge amount. So we were really, fortunate with NASA. And then this was our work was funded by NASA. The deployment part's funded by, our work was funded by NSF. The deployment part is not funded by NASA. It's funded by this entity called CASIS. So CASIS is the national lab that runs the space station. And so they were able to give us a certain amount of crew time that's more than science projects that go to NASA, because we were working with NSF. And it's a higher bar to make it through the science review at NSF. So we got a huge amount of astronaut time. And so really, it was really fun for my students to be working with astronauts. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Paul, again, I was really excited to hear about that from you. And thanks for everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
Another day, I'll just pick your brain on any of the other projects. I don't know, 100 or so that you're working on. But again, thanks again for your time.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you. All right.
Yep.
That was the NextDrop question. Thanks for listening. See you next time.